You know, inside every single one of us, there's this incredible microscopic city just humming with activity. We're talking trillions of tiny citizens, ourselves, all working around the clock to keep us alive. But what happens when some of those citizens decide to rebel? When they just stop following the rules and turn on the very body they're supposed to be building? Well, that rebellion has a name.
And no, this isn't some sci-fi plot. This is the real fundamental question behind one of the biggest challenges in all of biology, cancer. It's a story about order clashing with chaos, about tight control versus total rebellion. And it's all happening right inside of us.
So, to really get our heads around this internal conflict, we're going to break it all down. First up, we'll meet the hero of our story, the normal cell. Then, we'll dive into the super strict rules it has to live by. After that, we'll see what happens when those rules get shattered. We'll look at the 6 key strategies a cancer cell uses to win, and finally, we'll uncover how a good cell goes bad to begin with.
All right, so to understand a rebellion, you've got to understand the loyal citizen first, right? So let's start there. Let's meet the protagonist of our biological story, the normal, everyday, healthy cell.
I want you to think of cells as both the bricks and the power plants of your body, all rolled into one tiny package. They are the absolute fundamental unit of life. They don't just give us structure, they run all the tiny chemical reactions that literally power our entire existence.
And we're not talking about a small number here. Your body is this massive, sprawling metropolis made of trillions of these little guys all working together. I mean, the scale is just mind-boggling.
And these cells are true specialists with a seriously packed to-do list. As you can see, their job description is pretty long. But really, it all boils down to 2 main things: keep the body running smoothly today, and make perfect copies of themselves to help build the body of tomorrow. They are the ultimate team players.
Okay, but a city of trillions can't just be a free-for-all. That would be chaos. It needs rules. So, Section 2 is all about the incredibly strict regulations that keep our cells in check. It's a true masterclass in biological control.
So whenever we need new cells for, say, growth or to repair a cut, a cell performs this tightly choreographed 4-step dance. We call it the cell cycle. It grows a bit, it carefully copies every single piece of its DNA, and then after one last quality check, it splits into 2 perfect daughter cells. The whole thing is defined by precision.
Now, here's what's really amazing. This cycle isn't just running wild on autopilot. I mean, can you imagine? If it did, things would get out of control fast. So the body has put in place these unbelievably sophisticated control mechanisms to keep it all in line.
Think of these as the body's ultimate quality control system. You've got checkpoints that can literally pause the whole process to check for mistakes. You've got a built-in counter that limits how many times a cell can divide, and you have this whole complex language of chemical go and stop signals.
Let's zoom in on telomeres for a second, because they're fascinating. Picture the little plastic tips on a shoelace that keep it from fraying. Well, telomeres are basically that for our chromosomes. And here's the cool part. Every single time a cell divides, they get a tiny bit shorter. After about 50 divisions or so, they get so short that the cell gets the message, okay, time to retire. It's a built-in lifespan.
So what happens if a cell gets damaged or it's just plain old? Does it just hang around causing problems? Nope. The body has a protocol for that too. It's called apoptosis, or programmed cell death. It's basically a clean, quiet, self-destruct sequence that gets rid of faulty cells before they can cause any trouble. It is an absolutely critical safety measure.
And this right here brings us to the heart of our story. What happens when a cell just ignores all those stop signs? What happens when it refuses to follow orders and self-destruct? Well, this is where the rebellion begins. Okay, this table lays it all out. The difference between a loyal citizen and a complete renegade is just stark. Look at proliferation. A normal cell waits for a go signal, right? A cancer cell just floors the accelerator 24/7. It completely ignores the stop signals from its neighbors. It dodges that self-destruct sequence we just talked about. But maybe the most incredible trick it pulls off is a kind of immortality. It figures out how to rebuild its telomeres, basically breaking that 50 division limit. It just refuses to play by the rules. Now, you might think all this rule breaking is just random chaos. But scientists have discovered that there's a method to the madness. it can actually be broken down into a core set of strategies, sort of like an outlaw's playbook for how to succeed at being malignant.
Yeah, this huge insight came from a game-changing paper by two biologists, Robert Weinberg and Douglas Hanahan. They took all the incredible complexity of cancer and managed to boil it down to 6 fundamental changes.
That's it, just 6. 6 core alterations that are enough to turn a law-abiding cellular citizen into a truly dangerous outlaw.
And here it is. This is the outlaw's playbook. These are the 6 hallmarks, the core of cancer's entire strategy. You can see they basically give themselves a permanent green light to grow, while at the same time disabling all the stop signs. They learn to cheat death and become immortal. And then, most dangerously, they build their own supply lines for nutrients and learn to travel, spreading their rebellion all over the body.
So this leads us to the most critical question of all, right? How does this even happen? How does a perfectly normal, rule-following cell start down this destructive path to total chaos?
Well, the journey almost always begins with one thing: damage. Specifically, damage to the cell's instruction manual, its DNA. And this damage can come from all sorts of places. Things like chemicals in the environment, radiation from the sun, even some viruses. And sometimes, a person can be born with a faulty gene that kind of gives them a head start down this path.
That initial bit of damage can set off a really dangerous chain reaction. It causes mutations in the exact genes that are supposed to control growth. You can think of it like the go genes, the accelerator, getting stuck down, while the stop genes, the brakes, get cut. Once that final safety net, the self-destruct program, is also broken, well, there's nothing left to hold the cell back. And that's when it starts its chaotic, uncontrolled growth, eventually forming a tumor.
So that's the story. Cancer isn't some kind of foreign invader attacking us from the outside. It's us. It's our own cells, just corrupted. It is the ultimate cellular outlaw, a disease that's defined not really by what it is, but by what it does. It breaks the most fundamental rules that make complex life, like us, possible in the first place.
You know, understanding this playbook of broken rules is exactly how we've developed the cancer treatments we have today. But it leaves us with this huge, urgent question to think about. If cancer's whole strategy is to break the rules of life, what new rules can we, as scientists and doctors, write to stop it? How do we beat these outlaw cells at their own game?